Hello, Betty here, Betty Cotton Birtles. Wanting to talk to you about creating space. I've always been a person who has rushed around on the last minute. I seem to have a bit of I just seem to be a person who is quite often running on the last minute. And that's quite stressful. It's a stressful way of being. And recently I've become aware of how that makes me feel kind of stressed and like I'm always leaving it to the last possible minute to set off for the school run so that I've timed it perfectly, so I've got like 30 seconds to spare. And I'm always doing that, you know. I seem to be... Oh, that's weird. What's that ticking like? Oh, just put the hazards on with my foot. Yeah, I just seem to be a person who, has a tendency of leaving everything to the last minute, and it's been gradually building the annoyance about that over, well, probably the last couple of years, but it's getting to the point where I'm realising how little enjoyment that brings me, you know, that it's quite taxing on my energy levels to always be rushing around. And I think it came from a feeling of scarcity, of like, I've only got so much time and I need to be using it to be working. I need to be at my desk. I need to be working hard to build my business. And I'm just like, I've known this intellectually for a while, but I'm just really now beginning to embody the idea that I have known intellectually, that actually when I am doing things more slowly, I enjoy them more. And when I enjoy my life more, I'm way more effective in my business. And in life generally, and I'm happier. And when I'm happier, I'm more inspired and I've got better ideas. So I can work smarter instead of harder. And so today, I wanted to go to the gym this morning. I've just signed up for the health club, which is a lovely health club near where I live. It's on a farm. And it's got a pool and a sauna and a gym. And it's really in a beautiful position, nestled into the Welsh Hills. And this feels great to have made the commitment to sign up, to invest in the future me, knowing that when I take time to look after my body, I work much smarter, I'm more inspired, like I just said. So it seems like a great option and a great investment to make. Of course, it costs money to do that, but when I pictured myself successful and having achieved my dream of building my business to a certain level, of having consistency, consistent income, future me was taking, when I spent some time imagining the kinds of things I would be doing, I was spending time in the sauna and in the swimming pool and working out and in just, feeling good in my body and taking that time out for myself. And I made the decision to embody future me now. Like tricking myself, in a way, tricking myself into believing that I am that future version of myself already. Or maybe not tricking, but allowing myself to be her. And so today I wanted to go to the gym this morning before the school ran, but it didn't quite work out. I would have had to have rushed there. I would have had like an hour, and then I'd had to rush back to take the children to school. So actually I decided that I would spend the morning, and I didn't have any client calls or anything. So I just decided, okay, I'll spend the morning there. And that felt really good and felt really aligned. I could imagine myself, down the line that I would take time out on a Monday morning just to like look after myself. And so I made the decision to do it today, and it felt really good. And then instead of, I guess I've always been a person who squeezed every ounce of value out of something. Like if I signed up for something, I would, if I signed up for an hour in the pool, I would use every minute in the pool out of a sense of wanting to get my money's worth, I suppose. But now I've signed up as a member, it just felt so like I didn't feel that pressure, I was thinking, okay, I've got an hour here. And then actually after like 45, 50 minutes, I was done. And I thought, actually, what I really want to do is get out and go and buy a coffee and sit in the sun and create this podcast episode. And so I allowed myself to just to flow with my inspiration rather than feeling like I had to enjoy myself for the allotted time that was paid for in advance. And it's just, the pressure's off. And this is the way of the abundance mindset that people bang on about, that, versus the scarcity mindset. There's always more. There's this feeling of like, it's unlimited. And it feels really good to tap into that feeling. And not feel like you have to wring every ounce of value out of every single minute. But just that it's okay to just follow the inspiration as it arises. And so I sat outside in the sun with my coffee, having got out before my hour was up. And I was thinking, I've got to make this podcast episode. And I felt like, I'm not quite in the zone. I haven't quite hit on the inspiration. So I thought, okay, fine. I could feel this emotion actually in my belly. I think because of where I'm at in my cycle. I just had emotion rising up in my body. And I felt like, I don't know if I'm just kind of feeling slow and gentle. And I'm not really sure if I've got any ideas to share of value right now. And so I just sat in the sun and enjoyed my coffee and responded to a few messages. And then I thought, okay, I don't actually have to leave to pick up my girls for another hour. And usually I would have got my laptop out and crammed in, some work. And I decided to do something I don't think I can ever remember doing. I decided to leave an hour early because I was done there. Like I could have driven home and tried to fit in like 40 minutes of work and then driven to pick up the girls from school. Or I could have stayed there and tried to work there, but I wasn't feeling it. So I just, like, it's a beautiful sunny day. And I thought, what I really want to do is just be in nature. So I drove the scenic route slowly. And I could feel the sadness in my belly, like I mentioned. And I thought to myself, I want to move this sadness through. I want to let it out if it's ready to come out. And I just thought, okay, I want to listen to some music. Sometimes when I'm feeling in a kind of scarcity place, I might think, I should be listening to a podcast that is teaching me how to do something so that I am taking action, so that I'm using every spare minute to be productive, to grow my business somehow. Even when I'm driving, I should be using that time. And I guess this is a scarcity mindset. But I managed to kind of flick the switch somehow from scarcity to abundance to wealth. And I just stayed with asking myself, well, what do I need right now? And I wanted to let this emotion out, so I put on Leonard Cohen, his album 10 New Songs, which, oh my goodness, doesn't fail to strike something way down deep in my belly. And I sang along, and I drove along the lanes, and I had the windows open, and I was like, when there was no one behind me in the very little lanes, I had the windows open. I slowed right down so that I could I just enjoy the dancing bluebells and ferns in the hedgerows as I passed. It's mid-May now, and Wales is coming alive with just abundance, beauty, flowers, all colours, and just fertile juiciness. And when I'm rushing around, I don't have time to enjoy it in the same way. I mean, I enjoy it a bit, sure. Like, I'm grateful for the flowers, but I could really slow down and open the windows and sing and just really enjoy the drive. And then I kind of feel like I've always had a bit of an allergic reaction to arriving places early, because, well, then I wouldn't be using that time. What would I do if I was early? I'd just have to sit around doing nothing. Which is so interesting, because I love sitting around doing nothing. And so I arrived an hour early, and I drove just, now I'm in the valley where my daughter's school is. And I parked in a car park just up the lane, next to a churchyard, and there's a lovely bridge and a river. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, maybe I'll go and sit in the churchyard, and maybe that will bring me the inspiration to record the podcast episode. And I was just so enjoying listening to Leonard Cohen. I didn't want to turn the music off and get out of the car. And so I gave myself permission to stay in the car. And then I thought, hey, I could just recline my seat, which is what you can see now, look. The car's messy. Children. And then I thought, I can open the roof. We've got a sunroof that goes back. And I've literally never once taken the time to recline my seat and just enjoy looking at the clouds in the sky. And so here I am, giving myself permission to be early, to not have to do anything with the time that I've say, or the time on the other end, you know. But that I can, and somehow this is like investing in my future self. You know, sometimes I think we forget that the person who will arrive, you know, when I leave on the last minute, because I'm so busy trying to cram things in at my desk, and I'm, you know, I don't know why I have this habit of leaving everything to the last minute. But when I do that, it's like I'm not being very kind to the future version of me in like 20 minutes time, who's going to be rushing to get to school on time and like having to race through the lanes. And then if there's a tractor or something, which there often is because we live in the countryside, then I'm kind of a bit stressed the whole time. But yeah, oh, my whole body feels so relaxed. I've just had an hour in the gym and the pool and the sauna. And I've just taken all the pressure off and just allowing myself this time and space to just sit and put my feet up on the dashboard and just enjoy the clouds, just little fluffy clouds blowing over slowly, and the birds are tweeting. You might be able to hear them. And yeah, maybe with no pressure to even get out the car. Like, okay, it's fine just to stay in the car. I have full permission to stay in the car. And if I want to get out and go for a little walk in a minute when I finish talking to you, then I might do that. And that's okay too. But you know, this is why I've started this podcast. This is the message that I'm here with. You have permission to do what it takes to enjoy your life. Seems such an obvious thing to say. So why don't we do it? Like, what makes you feel good? What makes you, like, maybe you're like me, if you're able to access a pool or you know, something like that, or even just go for a walk or move your body, you know, how does that make you feel afterwards? How do you approach your day? And you know, in the moment it can feel like a chore, or like, oh, I don't want to do it, it hurts to run, or you know, you might feel too lazy or whatever. But actually it's an investment in the future version of yourself. When you do it and you realize how good you'll feel afterwards, then you can see that as an investment in your future. And it's interesting, if we start to approach our lives in this way, you know, what can I do now that will make me feel good later? Maybe it's just leaving 5 or 10 minutes earlier so you don't have to rush, if you're like me, a last minute kind of person. And just giving yourself permission, you know, not to use that time doom scrolling if you do get somewhere early, but to use that time just to, maybe just like me, just recline your seat and watch the clouds passing. enjoy the sun on your face. 5 minutes. I'm not talking about hours and hours. I'm talking about small habits repeated often. You know, what would happen if you got into the habit of every day, and if you've read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about habit stacking. So if there's something that you want to do more of, but you're finding it hard to do it, if you stack it on to another habit that you're doing anyway, like, for example, the school run, for me, that's an obvious one. If I got into the habit of leaving 10 minutes early or setting off 15 minutes early every time and giving myself 15 minutes to just be quietly before I pick up my children, there would be a huge knock-on effect to that. I would just be so much happier. I wouldn't be rushing. I'd be much more present with them when I arrived, instead of having to race down the road, which is often my way. I could just, delight in my sense fields. And arrive revitalized and restored, rather than rushing. And rushing's okay, There's nothing wrong with rushing, of course. But it can, it's just good to shake things up, isn't it? If you're someone who's always early, you might want to look at that. Try being a bit later. Or, I think it's just, it's good to kind of look at our habitual ways of being and see what we can do to play with them so that we're not so defined. But that's just my take on things. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching or listening. And I look forward to next time with lots of love from me. Bye bye.